There is a theory that No Face was once a human child who got lost in the spirit world, with no one to save them. Does this theory hold any ground? Did you know that the river spirit scene was inspired by a real event in Miyazaki's life? Do you know what this is? Or this? Learn about all of that and more by watching this video, where I go into detail about everything that makes Spirited Away great. If you like this video, don't forget to leave your support. Hello, welcome to part 3 of my Spirited Away review. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, please do so before watching this one. Last time we stopped at a part when Chihiro signed a contract with Yubaba and is now working at the Bathhouse. On the morning following Chihiro's signing of her contract with Yubaba, we see her trembling inside her futon on the sleeping quarters, unable to sleep, with the realization of everything that happened weighing on her shoulders. She is separated from her parents on a foreign land, and she doesn't know who she can trust and who she can't. While Chihiro is on this deep state of desperation, Haku enters the dorm and calls out to her, telling her to meet him at the bridge in front of the bathhouse. He then leads her to the pig pen to allow her to see her parents. When Chihiro arrives to the bridge, she finds No Face right in the middle of it and acknowledges them by curtsying. From this moment on, No Face is going to follow Chihiro in an invisible state. It might be due to the fact that she offered them attention that they began to stalk her. But we will talk more about No Face later. The segment during which Haku gives Chihiro her clothes and offers her some onigiri allows us to see a more empathetic and warm side of him. Despite Haku's kind acts and all the help he provided Chihiro so far, the viewer doesn't fail to notice that often his expression and movements are akin to robotic. We'll find out later that he is partially being controlled by Yubaba through magic. This curse takes the form of a black slug that lives inside him. The details of this spell, how does it work, and what are its effects upon Haku are never truly explored, so we can only guess while taking into account some hints. It clearly isn't strong enough to prevent him from acting on his free will, because we see him helping Chihiro and without Yubaba finding out, but he can seem to be able to talk to Yubaba as he pleases, because close to the end of the movie, after Chihiro smashes the curse, Haku confronts Yubaba, who seems surprised that Haku can talk to her with such an attitude. Kamaji also comments that after some time being Yubaba's apprentice, Haku's eyes gained a sharp gleam and he became increasingly pale, which might also be related to the spell. The bottom line is Haku needs saving as much as Chihiro does. Not that he is helping Chihiro, hoping she will in turn free him. Having met her as a child, Haku feels connected to Chihiro and doesn't want her to suffer the terrible fate of being imprisoned to Yubaba and the bathhouse forever, such as he is. When Chihiro starts working, her slowness and clumsiness distinguish her from the rest of the girls. Once again, Chihiro represents all of us when entering the workforce. Everyone else is used to the routine, everyone else knows what to do and go through their functions with speed and efficiency, and in comparison we feel slow and incompetent. At the center point, Lin asks Chihiro, "Have you ever worked a day in your life?" which leads fans to speculate if there is a critique to child labor hidden in the movie. After all, Chihiro is just 10 years old and Lin is expecting work experience from her. However, there is a more innocent way to interpret this question. Simplistically speaking, parents can be put on a spectrum with two extremities. On one end, there are the ones that include children in the home activities and raise their kids to be able to cook and clean and take care of a house from a very young age. And on the other hand, there are the ones that spoil their kids and never force them to do anything. These last kids have a harder time than the others when they reach adulthood and find themselves having to learn life skills on top of having to worry about all the other parameters of grown-up life. When Lin asks Chihiro, "Have you ever worked a day in your life?" she might be simply commenting, "It looks like you never did any manual labor in your life," rather than, "I'm surprised you never officially worked before." When Chihiro is pouring away the water, She notices No Face standing in the rain and decides to leave the door open for them to enter. This act of kindness further attaches them to her. Also, I forgot to mention, but I am referring to No Face as them because No Face has no gender, so I think that they them pronouns might be the most adequate. I've been trying to find the right moment to talk a bit about No Face, and I think this is the right one. There is a lot of debate around what No Face, in Japanese kaonashi, represents and who or what served as an inspiration for its character. Many believe No Face was inspired by a yokai named Noperabo. Noperabo resemble ordinary human beings in every aspect except for the fact that they don't have a face. Their heads are blank orbs with no eyes, nose, or mouth. These tricksters can be encountered on quiet, empty roads during nighttime, and they love to scare humans for no other reason than the thrill of it. They appear with their backs turned to the human and then turned around to give them a good fright. Sometimes they even appear with a face, only to wipe it off dramatically at the right moment. They're also very social and love to set up scale traps. It's not uncommon for a poor victim to run into multiple faceless monsters, and they even go as far as to impersonate their loved ones. You must have noticed by now that these No Perabu and No Face have literally not a single thing in common besides both being sort of faceless. And even then, they are faceless in different ways, which gives them a very distinctive appearance from each other. It is possible No Face is one of those Ghibli exclusive creations, such as the Susuatari are. In a July 2001 press conference held at Imperial Hotel, Miyazaki explained, "No Face is just a name and a mask, and other than that, we don't really know what he's thinking or what he wants to do. We just name him No Face because his expression never changes. That's all. But I do think there are people like him everywhere. People who want to glom on to someone but have no sense of self." Character designer Miyazaki and Ando elaborated, "No Face is basically expressionless, but I ended up adding just a tiny bit of expression. It might have been better to make his mask more no-like without any expression at all, conveying his expressions by lightning. No Face swallows the Bathhouse workers, and I thought it might have been interesting if he acquired their personalities and ability to reason." Masashi mentioned No. No is a major form of classical Japanese dance drama that was created in the 14th century. No is often based on tales from traditional literature, and it integrates masks, costumes, and various props in a dance-based performance. There were originally about 60 types of No masks, but today there are well over 200 in use. The masks appear to have a neutral expression, and it's the duty of the performer to imbue the mask with emotion. One of the techniques used to change the mask's expression is to slightly tilt the mask up or down. With terrazzo, tilting upwards, the mask appears to be slightly smiling or laughing, and with kumorazu, tilting downwards, the mask appears to be frowning or crying. Just as the mask is manipulated by the actor who wears it, No Face's personality also changes depending on the people who surround them. This is because they have no identity. They linger around the bathhouse, observing others but never being noticed themselves. This is until Chihiro finds them. Imagine wandering for years, invisible to everyone, and then having someone greet you. It is understandable when we look at it by this point of view, why No Face becomes so obsessed with Chihiro. We never get to know who No Face is, or maybe who they were, nor where do they come from, but it is very clear they are not bound to the same rules the other spirits are. No Face notices Chihiro even when she is under the invisibility spell cast by Haku. Yubaba seems to know what they are, but she has no control over them. On an article called Spirited Away, a social criticism, it is said that No Face's only inherent quality is a lack of its own identity, and Yubaba's grasp over others relies on her ability to change their identities. Therefore, that is the reason why Yubaba has no power over No Face. I think it's a pretty neat theory. And talking about neat theories, there is one that states that No Face was once a human, more specifically by the way they behave a very small child, and as Chihiro got lost in this realm. Some say that becoming a Kaonashi, or a no-face, would be Chihiro's destiny as well if Haku had not saved her from disappearing at the start of the movie. They support this theory by showing how no-face's features resemble the ones of a human, although distorted. For example, they have omnivorous teeth. This would also explain why only Chihiro is able to notice them, as she is a human as well. As an extra layer of that, this would mean that the moment when Chihiro bows to them on the bridge will be the first time No-Face experiences human contact ever since getting trapped in the spirit world. I'm not saying that Miyazaki thought of all this when creating No-Face's character. All I'm saying is it is an interesting theory. But not all theories are such as coherent. You wouldn't believe some other theories that I read, like the one that says that No-Face is after Chihiro's virginity. I refuse to elaborate further. Theories aside, it is very clear that No-Face wants to connect with Chihiro, and when she leaves the door open after pouring the water, they enter, which leads to catastrophic results, as you know. When Chihiro returns, Lin and her start the task of cleaning the biggest tub of the entire bathhouse, the one that is reserved for the dirtiest of the clients. It is one of the worst jobs, and Lin is not usually responsible for it, but Yubaba wants to give Chihiro a hard time. After struggling for a while, Lin sends Chihiro to retrieve a herbal token from the foreman, but he doesn't want to give it to her. It's No-Face who ends up stealing the token and giving it to Chihiro. They spend a couple hours at best inside the bathhouse and are already learning from the environment. What No-Face learns is that you can make a person like you if you give them what they want. And when Chihiro smiles and thanks him, it further reinforces this idea on their mind. They then proceed to try to give Chihiro multiple tokens because they can replicate everything they touch, but Chihiro refuses, what disheartens them so much that they turn invisible again. You might be wanting to ask, would No-Face have eaten Chihiro if she had accepted the tokens? Very likely yes. Does that mean No-Face wanted to intentionally eat Chihiro? I don't think so. I see it as that sort of situation in which a person is so desperate to be liked by the other or to live through the other that they accidentally consume them. In this case, you can take the consuming part quite literally. But no, I don't think No-Face was setting a trap for Chihiro here, is what I mean. Meanwhile, Yubaba senses danger. In her words, some useless scum under cover of rainfall. She phones the foreman and tells him that someone just intruded. What she is sensing is actually No-Face, but at that moment what appears like a stink spirit arrives. So she thinks, it didn't seem like a stink spirit to me, but lets it go and forces Chihiro to receive the newcomer. The judgment we bestow upon others because of their appearance is so strong, not even Yubaba recognizes the supposed stink spirit for what it really is, an ancient and famous river spirit. Everyone is blinded by how disgusting it looks and how badly it smells. Chihiro then leads the stink spirit to the tub, but even all that water is unable to cleanse it. Chihiro shows incredible resistance here, and it is not only because this was a job she was told to do and she wants to do it well, but because she genuinely wants to help this client. When the spirit grabs her, she is not afraid and tries instead to understand what it is seeking to communicate. When Yubaba was taking great joy in watching Chihiro struggle, hears Chihiro say to Lin, "This Kami has a thorn stuck in him." She immediately understands what is truly going on and jumps into action. This is also one of the greatest moments for Yubaba, since we see her leading everyone to work together to help the Kami. As Miyazaki himself stated, Yubaba is putting all her efforts to protect the Bathhouse. She is not a villain. With the collective efforts of everyone, the stink spirit, who was revealed to actually be a river spirit who had been polluted and desecrated by humankind, returns to its original state. On the ground around the bathtub, all kinds of disposed objects lie in the rests of the mud. In the interview given at the festival Nouvelles Images do Japão, already mentioned before, Miyazaki talks plenty about this scene. No, it doesn't come from mythology, but from my own experience. There is a river close to where I live in the countryside. When they cleared the river, we got to see what was at the bottom of it, which was truly putrid. In the river there was a bicycle, with its wheels sticking out above the surface of the water. So they thought it would be easy to pull out, but it was terribly difficult, because it had become so heavy from all the dirt it had collected over the years. Now they have managed to clean up the river. The fish are slowly returning to it, so all is not lost. But the smell of what they dug up was really awful. Everyone had just been throwing stuff into that river over the years, so it was an absolute mess. Albeit not the only one, this scene is the most evident example of Miyazaki critiquing the devaluing of nature in modern Japan. The loss of traditional spiritual beliefs and the industrial boom led to less care and respect for nature, which was once considered so important. Miyazaki himself refers to this idea. In my grandparents' time, it was believed that spirits existed everywhere, in trees, rivers, insects, wells, anything. My generation does not believe this, but I like the idea that we should all treasure everything because spirits might exist there, and we should treasure everything because there is a kind of life to everything. Once the river spirit is clean, it shows its true form, a dragon-like body adorned by the smiley mask of an old man. Haku, as shown earlier, also has a dragon form, so this might be a hint to the fact he is a river spirit as well. In the Japanese version of the movie, the river spirit says to Chihiro, "It feels good." This is, it feels good to return to a natural, unpolluted state. It shows satisfaction and a sense of relief, unlike the English version, where he comments, "Well done," in regards to Chihiro's acts. The kami leaves behind gold on the ground, and gives Chihiro with a small brown ball. I remember wondering what that ball was when I watched the movie as a kid, and it turns out that it's some kind of old herbal cake with medical properties. A bitter emetic dumpling, used in cases of intoxication to make people vomit. The river spirit found it appropriate to give Chihiro something that cleanses one's insides, since Chihiro helped cleanse his insides as well. Chihiro gets this idea in her head that the bitter dumpling can help her parents, which might be a possibility if Yubaba puts something inside them to turn them into pigs. It's uncertain if the dumpling would have returned Chihiro's parents to its natural state, but even if that were to happen, it wouldn't solve the bigger problem, which is Chihiro being tied by contract to Yubaba and the Bathhouse. The River Spirit episode makes Chihiro gain a reputation for herself inside the Bathhouse. Yubaba praises her because of all the money they gained, and offers free drinks to all the workers on Chihiro's account. And behind all the celebration, we see that No Face has picked a piece of gold from the ground, which means that they can now mimic gold. After the big feat, Chihiro and Lin share a moment of tranquility before they go to sleep. Lin admits her desire to leave the bathhouse, but it is clear she is expressing what she feels it's a fantasy rather than a real possibility. The rain from before flooded the field, which allows for a beautiful shot of the train crossing the water. The sixth station, which plays here, is my second favorite soundtrack of Spirited Away. A bit later, we see Aogaero sneaking out to the big bathtub room, where it starts looking for gold and finds No Face. From this moment on, No Face gets from being invisible to everyone to being noticed by everyone, for they are deliberately showing themselves. Remember when I said earlier that No Face had no intention of eating Chihiro when they gave her the tokens? Now their body language is completely different. The act of devouring Aogaero is calculated. When trying to offer the tokens to Chihiro, No Face kept pushing their arms forward, eagerly moving their head and making sounds as if to beg Chihiro to accept them. This time, they first drop some nuggets of gold to get Aogaero's attention. Only upon seeing the gold, he notices No Face. This is something we will see repeated with the foreman later. The foreman first sees the gold, only then No Face. This is the way No Face found to make themselves go from invisible to visible in this world, which is kind of interesting when we think about it, that he had to give money to people to make them see them. Once they have Aogaero's attention, No-Face tantalizes him by creating more gold, which they keep shaking inside their hand in a way that clearly states, "I am baiting you." They keep moving their arm further and further closer to their real mount, right below the mask, so they can easily devour him. When the foreman arrives alerted by the light that was left on, No-Face sours him with gold and says, "I'm hungry." This was their goal when eating Aogaero, to gain a voice. Now that they can create gold and have a voice, they can get what they are starving for, which is not food, it's friendship and recognition. Do not forget that they are under the impression you can buy companionship, for it is what they learn inside the Bathhouse. You give people what they like, and they will like you back. Their loneliness reached a breaking point, and it led them to eat Aogaero, whose greed they will now absorb. This instant turns No-Face into a monster. As for the foreman, he even recognizes Aogaeru's voice at first, coming from No-Face, which is a huge red flag, but the money he keeps receiving makes him act against his best judgment. It wakes everyone up except Yubaba, for she would force them to relinquish all the gold, and starts treating No-Face as a millionaire client. Chihiro suddenly awakes from a premonitory nightmare, in which she wanted to give the bitter dumpling to her parents, but is unable to do so, because she can recognize them from within a crowd of pigs that all look the same. She awakes to an empty room, and soon finds everyone else is busy trying to gain the favors of a particularly rich client, who she recognizes as No-Face. She, however, doesn't want to participate in this show of flattery, because she doesn't want to gain money. Her mind is on her parents, so she prefers to go back to the dorm and watch the pig pen from afar. In this moment, she sees a wounded dragon being chased by the Shikigami. The English version of Spirited Away doesn't make this clear, but Chihiro is actually not sure at first if the dragon she is seeing is Aku. She just has that feeling, both because she saw him before while on the bridge right after she met Aku, and once very long ago when she was saved by him as a little child. So she calls out to him and helps him get rid of his pursuers. Shikigami are servant spirits who were used in rituals by Onmyoji. It is hard to explain in a few words what a Onmyoji is, but think of it as a specialist in magic and divination. Shikigami had various purposes. They could bring good luck, protect someone, or on the contrary, curse them. To call on a Shikigami meant to control a kami and use its powers for some goal. Albeit they can assume many forms, most are enshrined in small objects, such as strips of papers, as we see in the movie, or amulets. The following events are also a point of critique for many people who dislike the movie. They state they got disappointed that Zeniba was made to be this evil threat, this cruel witch, but at the end it turns out she is kind for no reason and forgives Aku too easily for someone who hated him. However, Zeniba never really hated Aku. In fact, she didn't feel particularly strong about him one way or another. He committed the sin of stealing a very precious shield from her and simply suffered the consequences of that bad deed. Zeniba is also aware that he is being controlled by her twin sister Yubaba, so for what she knows, Aku might be a lost cause, someone who lost his identity and his will, living only to fulfill Yubaba's desires. I think this misconception exists due to the English dub. On Yubaba's office, Zeniba says, "Do you know why Haku became my sister's apprentice? To steal her magic secrets." But on the Japanese version, she says something very different, more akin to, "All dragons are kind and stupid. So eager to learn my sister's magical ways, now this boy will do anything that greedy woman wants." So while the dub makes us think that Zeniba sees Aku in a very bad light, the original makes us realize she sees Aku as a sort of victim of his foolishness. There is nothing good about him. Now move aside, I'm going to get my seal back from him. My point is, the original does a much better job at presenting Zeniba as ambiguous when in comparison with the English version. If you can, watch the entire scene with subtitles. Aku, thinking only Yubaba can save him from that, only leaves Chihiro and uses his last strength to reach Yubaba's headquarters. Chihiro nevertheless doesn't give up and runs after him. She first tries to take the elevator, but one of the workers blocks her from entering it because she is in No Face's way. When No Faces see Chihiro, they immediately throw the foreman aside and try to offer her a pile of gold, much to everyone's surprise. No Face is not happy. Neither the duration nor the food can fill the emptiness that they feel inside, so rather than understanding that the reason for that is because all of the love the bathhouse workers are giving them is fake, they think it must be Chihiro, that she is the answer, and that she is the one, the only one, who can give him love. And when she rejects the gold and runs off, No Face gets devastated. They then become paranoid because everyone saw the rejection, so the rampage begins. But we will leave that for the next part. I will hope to see you there, and I hope that you are liking it and that you are learning stuff. Bye.